Welcome to Abyss of Horror, where shadows breathe and nightmares awaken. Tonight we dedicate this tale to Zach, a loyal soul who dares to walk the edge of terror with us. Settle in, but beware. What you bring into your home may be more than it seems. Mark had always been drawn to old things, antiques with stories buried deep in their worn surfaces. So when he found the listing for the old wooden organ online, he couldn't resist. The seller claimed it was from the early 1900s, rescued from a derelict chapel in the Midwest. Pictures showed ornately carved wood, faded keys that whispered of hymns long forgotten, and brass pipes that gleamed despite decades of dust. It arrived on a rainy afternoon, delivered by two sweating men who muttered something about how heavy it was. Mark didn't care. He tipped them generously and set to work cleaning the dust off, polishing the wood until it glowed. He pressed one key gently. A low, throaty note groaned through the house. It was beautiful. Haunting. That night, as he lay in bed, something gnawed at his thoughts. A sense of movement, like creeping tendrils brushing against his subconscious. Mark dismissed it, blaming his overactive imagination. The next morning, his jeans were ruined. The fabric was frayed, as though gnawed through by sharp little teeth. His first thought was mice, or maybe rats. He checked under the bed, the closet, and around the organ, but found nothing. He spent the evening setting traps, baited them with cheese, peanut butter, and bits of bread. He placed them strategically throughout the house, especially near the organ, which now seemed oddly colder than the rest of the room. He shivered and went to bed. When he returned from work the next day, the traps had been moved. Not triggered, just dragged. One sat in the middle of the living room, its bait gone. Another was propped upright against the leg of the organ, as if something had toyed with it. Unease wormed its way into his thoughts, but Mark brushed it off. Maybe they were defective. He reset them all, more firmly this time. The next morning, he found the traps in even stranger places. One hung from a coat hook, another balanced precariously on the organ bench. And this time, there was something caught in one of them. A tuft of thick, dark hair. Not mouse hair. Not rat fur. It was coarse, almost bristly, and smelled faintly of damp soil. Mark recoiled, his skin crawling. He checked the entire house, every corner and crevice, but found nothing. No droppings, no signs of entry. The organ seemed colder still, like it was leaching warmth from the air. That night, he couldn't sleep. Haunted by the thought of something moving through his house, something that knew how to mock him. On the third night, Mark dreamed of the organ. In the dream, he sat at the bench, hands moving over the keys. But the sound that came out wasn't music. It was whispering. Low, rasping words that gnawed at his sanity. Feed it. The phrase repeated over and over, growing louder until he woke up drenched in sweat. Heart thundering in his chest. He didn't go back to sleep. At dawn, he examined the organ again. This time, he noticed claw marks etched into the wood near the base, like something had scraped its way out from inside. He felt sick but couldn't tear his eyes away. Another night passed, marked by restless sleep and whispers from the hallway. In the dead of night, Mark heard something dragging itself across the floor, moving slowly, purposefully. When he mustered the courage to investigate, he found nothing, just the organ, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. The next morning, he discovered muddy footprints leading from the organ to his bedroom door. They were elongated, clawed, like the feet of something neither human nor animal. Mark's pulse hammered as he traced them back, only to find them vanish beneath the organ. He didn't go to work that day. Instead, he sat with his shotgun and waited, eyes never leaving the cursed instrument. As night fell, the air grew thick and humid. Mark's hands trembled, the barrel of the gun slick with sweat. At midnight, the organ began to play on its own, a low, mournful tune that made his skin crawl. He stood, weapon at the ready, and moved closer. The music swelled, almost beautiful, if not for the discordant, hungry undertone. Then it stopped. Silence gripped the house like a stranglehold. Something moved behind him, a heavy, deliberate sound. He turned, gun raised, but saw nothing. Just the organ, now oozing dark, viscous fluid from its base. The smell of rot filled the room. Mark staggered back, trying to keep his footing, and then he saw it. A hunched figure, almost human but wrong in every way. Long limbs ending in clawed fingers, matted hair that seemed to grow from its very flesh. Its eyes were hollow, dark pits, and its mouth stretched unnaturally wide, rows of needle-like teeth glinting as it hissed. Before Mark could react, it lunged at him, vanishing into shadow just before impact. The organ let out a deep, resonant groan, like it was sated, and Mark fell to his knees, gasping. He never played the organ again. Instead, he locked the room and barred the door, but every night, he still hears it playing. Low, somber notes that fill his dreams with darkness. Sleep is a luxury he no longer knows, and each morning brings new signs. The floorboards warped as though something heavy paced the night away. Claw marks creeping up the walls, and the ever-growing sense that whatever lived in the organ had found a way out. He tried to sell it, to give it away, even burn it, but it always returned, waiting in its usual spot, gleaming, hungry. Mark knew deep down that it wouldn't leave until it had devoured everything, starting with his sanity. And so the organ waits, patient and insatiable, while Mark's mind frays like the threads of his ruined genes. If you find an antique that calls to you, remember, some echoes from the past are best left unheard. Darkness is not always kind, and curiosity can be fatal. If you enjoyed tonight's tale, linger a little longer, subscribe, and like to ensure you never miss the next story from Abyss of Horror. And tell me in the comments, what word comes to mind after hearing this tale? Until next time, sleep well.